Yo, what's up everyone? It's the DCEU podcast, man, and I want to discuss about the Batman movie we never and will probably never get. In the earlier stages of the DCEU, there were plans for a standalone Batfleck movie, but sadly it was scrapped when Affleck decided to leave the franchise after Justice League. This Batman movie would have focused on Bruce Wayne's life being destroyed by Deathstroke, played by Joe Manganiello, who killed everyone that Bruce Wayne was close with and destroyed his life because he held him responsible for something that happened to him a long time ago. Well, we'll never know what exactly happened to Deathstroke, that he would blame Batman for all of his misfortune, but we can assume that during one of Batman's crusades from before his debut in Batman vs. Superman, something big must have happened to him that significantly scarred him into seeking out a personal vendetta against the Dark Knight. It's possible that someone he loved was either injured or killed, or his personal life could have been ruined by Wayne Industries that led him to become the supervillain we all know and love. But if we're looking at it from his comic book origins, after serving in the US military and chosen to be injected with a formula that transformed him into a metahuman super soldier, like a certain member of the Avengers we all know and love, the comic book villain known as the Jackal, not to be confused with the one from Marvel, kidnapped his son Joseph Wilson, and during the fight who saved Joseph's life, his son's throat was slit, and while he didn't die, he was rendered a mute, and his wife both tried to kill Wade Wilson, but only hit his eye and left him shortly after. So maybe, as an alteration of Deathstroke's origin from the comics, someone relating to Batman or Bruce Wayne could have been responsible for that. Like someone from his rogue gallery, or maybe Batman himself was the one who tried to save Joseph only to end up failing, and Joseph would either be a mute or have died, which in turn would also show us how Batman eventually became the brutal hero we saw in the DCEU. Well, that and Robin's death and a seemingly never-ending war on crime in all of Gotham. Now it was described by Joe Manganiello that Deathstroke would have been like a horror movie serial killer or shark when he stalks Bruce Wayne and ruin his life. So the director and writers could take cues from horror movies like Halloween or Friday the 13th on the style of how he stalks Bruce and tries to ruin him. Now that would have been interesting to see, because when we stop and think about it, in the superhero business, except for the movie Brightburn, we saw elements of fantasy and sci-fi mixed into the movies, but we never really got to see like any kind of horror perspective of some of the comic book movies. This is especially fitting since Batman himself is pretty much darkness incarnate. So seeing this specific genre of movies taking on a horror perspective would have gave the film a unique vibe to it. It's like we're watching a comic book movie, but at the same time, we're watching a horror movie. Kind of like what Brightburn tried to do, although the majority of it was mostly horror. But back to the topic of this cancelled movie. Due to this decision, so many projects around Deathstroke have been cancelled despite appearing in the Snyder Cut of Justice League. So, like, we won't see him in the Injustice League. Overall, I don't think we're going to see an Injustice League as well. But we can only hope. But who knows, maybe with the multiverse thing, we'll see him again. We only have to wait and see. But in a way, Deathstroke would have been like Loki of the MCU. He will appear in many projects, sort of connecting into one intertwined story. Because Wonder Woman 1984 will be set to stream on Christmas this year, HBO Max will do the same thing for some of the other movies that Warner Brothers plans to release next year. one of which is The Suicide Squad. So, my prediction in the previous podcasts came true. That many more movies will follow this decision. But on the bright side, at least we can watch Suicide Squad safely in the comfort of our own homes. But as to which there will be some kind of fee to watching it, it has not been confirmed, but we'll wait and see. This has been the DCEU podcast, man. Thank you for listening. Please remember to hit like and subscribe to my channel. And stay tuned for my next podcast, where I will be talking about the next standalone Superman movie, if we ever get one, that they should include an Easter egg to Goku from the Dragon Ball franchise. Thank you, goodbye. And remember, you can hear my podcast on Breaker, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, and Copy RSS.